Hi, this is Rachel Wright here at the Women's Grow Conference. Today I'm here with Beau Whitney of Whitney Economics. I'm so happy to have you come and join us for lunch.
Oh, thanks. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a great conference.
Yeah. So tell me about that. You're saying there's some riveting conversations, panels.
Yeah, there's only a certain amount that you can glean from writing and from reading. But then when you hear the testimonials of the people, boots on the ground, there's just so much. It's much richer in terms of content and insights. And so I always like to go to conferences to talk to people. And this one is particularly dear to my heart because I know some of the organizers and founders of the conference, and they've been very supportive of my work in the area of economics to where I always like to reciprocate that as well.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Is there anything about this geographical area being in Maryland, up and coming, kind of?
Well, what I find compelling is that you've got pockets of support and pockets of less than support, and and
Opposition, I guess. So,
yeah,
yeah.
um, like for example, in Virginia, they had legalized stuff, but they legalized adult use and or medical, but they hadn't really deployed anything, and it, I guess it was medical, and then they kind of stopped.
They did. Yeah, they retracted the recreational, right? Yeah, it was the senator that
Yeah.
stopped it, right?
And so meanwhile, you've got an adjacent state that has a very low tax at the retail level. And it's because of that low differential between illicit to legal pricing, you've got a very popular market. You've got an accelerated conversion of the consumer away from the illicit market to the legal market. It's very successful. You've got some retailers and other operators that, for now at least, are doing well and they're sustainable. And so that's, just a juxtaposition of one market versus the other. And I find that really compelling in this area of the country.
Right. Because you have the DMV region, and it's all kind of one ecosystem in a way. You
Yes.
know, yeah,
Yeah.
the borders are.
And because of the fact that, I mean, just because a senator in Virginia says no to it, it doesn't mean that it ceases all cannabis consumption in the state. And so they just go to different markets and acquire. And that's what we're predicting in the future is that there'll be these regional blocks where there's similar programs, similar rules and regulations, similar prices, and the that region will grow together.
Yeah.
And you're starting to see that in the Northeast, in the Mid Atlantic. You've seen that out west already, but for right now, the East Coast is where the action is.
Oh, yeah, for sure. That's why we're here, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So, how about the tri-state region? Depending on how you define tri-state. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. No, but one thing that I've been looking at is just the way that rules and regulations are promulgated. And in my opinion, the rules and regulations are quite antiquated. They're based upon the 2014 dispensary model, and that's in my view a failed model because it puts a limit on the level of legal participation.
Right.
And so while the cannabis industry has been very nimble in a dynamic environment and things have evolved quite rapidly over the last, say, 10 years. The regulatory market hasn't been as nimble and hasn't really changed all that much.
Yes, I know you talk to policymakers quite often. They lean on you for your reporting. So, what would you advise some of these policymakers?
Well, one of the things I've been doing recently um, to help out, say, regulators, is I've been doing not only demand analysis but supply analysis, and then I've been marrying the two. One of the one of the mistakes that is quite common throughout every regulatory program, seemingly, is that they don't look at the supply; they just look at the demand. And then as a result, they issue too many licenses in the supply. Things become oversaturated because of the federal illegality. You can't ship this out of state. And so you have a cap on your market. And when you have an oversupply situation, prices go down. And prices are going down rapidly at the same time that input costs are going up. So you have labor costs and other costs going up. So that's not a good recipe for sustainability or viability. And so what I've been trying to help educate regulators on is I've been trying to say, hey, here's your supply, here's your demand, here's how it looks. Maybe you should slow things down a little bit, or maybe you should take a different approach to the way that you manage your regulatory program. And this started in the state of Washington. They commissioned a work from my firm, Whitney Economics, and then it started proliferating across the country. And so now more and more states are interested in this type of analysis to say, okay, we know that we need to change, but how do we change, and in what areas should we change? And so I've been slowly expanding my level of influence with policymakers and with regulators throughout the country, and then now internationally as well.
I love that. I love that. So, sure. Tell us about any current projects you're working on. I know you mentioned.
Well, one I'm doing with the city of Portland,
Yeah.
Oregon, to examine the health of their market, the cannabis market. They're one of the unique cities that actually issues licenses on top of the state licenses. And so they're trying to get an assessment of how that's working, and where they need to change. And one of the interesting things is, um, what is the future state of Portland cannabis? And so,
We'd love to see that turn around, right?
yeah, yeah,
In Oregon in general.
yeah, because it's a very distressed market in
Yes.
Oregon. And Portland kind of dominates, the Portland metro area dominates the state, from a demand and supply perspective. And so that's one thing. I've done a supply report where I've examined the canopy in the United States,
Oh, boy.
and from a legal and illicit perspective, and then compare that to the total amount of supply that's in demand right now. And there's more supply capacity authorized just in the 40 states, than there is demand for illicit and legal by a factor of almost three. And so you've got
Yeah.
112 million pounds of supply capacity for 50 million pounds of demand.
Well, and so I think this is why people are looking for other alternatives and shipping cross borders, right? And
Absolutely.
up to Canada and things like that. You want to, yeah.
And I'm giving a speech about hemp at NOCO in April, Northern Colorado Hemp Expo. And one of my key messages there is that a light touch regulatory model is actually quite good for when you're in a supply situation, oversupply situation, um, because it allows operators to innovate. Whereas in a highly restrictive market, if you're in an oversupply situation, then you're just kind of stuck with it, and it's difficult to innovate your way out of it. And so that's the fundamental difference. And so I'm doing a lot of hemp reports. I'm doing a lot of cannabis reports, and then I'm drawing comparisons between the two markets.
Well, it'd be great to offer that that option and that kind of pathway for, the cannabis business owners that need to pivot and they want to make sure they have a living, so they can pivot from one to the other. I don't know what that conversion is like to hemp, and if it makes sense for them, but that's a great option.
Well, it depends upon
Right.
what the intention of the business is, right? And so, if their goal is to distribute intoxicating materials, then a pivot into hemp may be quite appropriate. The risk to that, though, is that they're pivoting into an environment that is getting tougher and tougher and tougher from a regulatory perspective.
True. It's going in reverse
Yeah,
order, correct, with the Farm Bill, right?
yeah. In fact, I have a meeting today with some investors and business owners that are looking to pivot, and they're like, can we still do this? But one of the other difficulties with the hemp industry is that it's been the cannabinoid derived from hemp has been so maligned that it's impacting the infrastructural development of fiber and grains as well.
Yeah.
And so it's impacting the entire industry, not just the hemp, cannabinoid industry. And what's unfortunate about that is that, the hemp cannabinoid industry only intersects with maybe 10% of the marijuana industry in terms of product offerings. And so you have gummies and vapes, but then the marijuana market they've capitulated the beverage market to the hemp guys. And so there's no overlap, very little overlap there. It doesn't really register too much on their P&L at a retailer. And so you're really creating all this animosity between hemp and marijuana for 10% of the market.
Right.
And
It's not worth it. Right.
it's not worth it, not with the collateral damage to the hemp industry. But what the marijuana operators don't understand is that they're actually shooting themselves in the foot because they're promoting a restrictive market rather than something that could open up and expand and really open up the market to more consumers, more product lines, more innovation, and could potentially suck up a lot of the excess supply that's currently in the marijuana market.
Oh my gosh. So, okay. So, where can we find you? You said you're going to NOCO. I know you're going to be speaking at the EU Cannabis Summit,
Yeah, I've got a kind of a European tour going on.
ICBC.
I'm going to be first at the Cannabis Summit, which is a very rock solid, very intimate group of thought leaders.
We'll see you there.
And then I'm going down to Bordeaux in France to talk to some folks on medical cannabis policy with some of the policymakers there in France. And then I'm going to ICBC, and then I'm going to Albania to talk about cannabis reform in Albania. So March is, and there might be a Morocco trip in there too, but there's a lot going on in March. But for right now, I'm just trying to remain steadfast in providing at my website, whitneyeconomics.com, is I'm trying to remain steadfast in providing good data, reliable insights that not only examine the local markets, but the state markets, the national markets, and then international markets.
I love that. I love that. Good to see you as always, Beau. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Okay, well, there you have it. Rachel Wright here at Women Grow Conference with Beau Whitney of Whitney Economics. So grateful for this event. Chandra Macias, great job, and all your team. We've absolutely loved it. This is, you know, I think we should all support this conference, men, women alike. You don't have to be a woman to come here. And looking forward to seeing you next time there's a conference here. Thank you.